10 longest waits Star Trek has forced fans to endure. For the nearly 60 years that Star Trek has been a science fiction staple, fans have been forced to endure long waits between an initial promise made by the franchise and seeing that story come to fruition. Being a long-running science fiction franchise almost inevitably comes with fallow periods where no new content is being produced. Like fellow long-runners, Star Wars and Doctor Who, gaps between eras of Star Trek have sometimes lasted for years, and it wasn't always certain that there would be new Star Trek shows on the other side of the wait. The streaming age hasn't necessarily made things better for Star Trek fans. Shorter seasons mean we spend less time with characters we'd like to get to know. The unpredictable schedules of streaming shows mean it's hard to know when any given season of Star Trek will arrive, or how long it will be when it does. After Star Trek's great year in 2022, when there was a new Star Trek story nearly every week, the gaps between Star Trek stories seem longer than ever. There were, however, much longer waits in Star Trek. Filming of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 was delayed by the SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild of America strikes in 2023, so 13 months have passed since the Gorn attack on Federation Colony Parnassus Beta in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 10, Hegemony. Some characters must survive the cliffhanger ending to be in Star Trek, the original series, but the fates of new characters like Captain Marie Battelle, Melanie Scrofano, still hang in the balance over a year later. To tide fans over for the time being, Paramount provided a sneak peek clip of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 at San Diego Comic-Con 2024 and teased that the upcoming season would arrive sometime in 2025. As of September 2024, an official release date for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 has yet to be confirmed, so the wait could wind up being much longer than 13 months. Less than a year had passed between Star Trek Discovery's first two seasons, so it was surprising that fans had to wait for 17 months to see what was on the other side of Discovery's wormhole to the future, and how the USS Discovery would fare in the 32nd century. Star Trek Discovery benefited from a longer period between seasons since Discovery Season 3 acted as a soft reboot for Commander Michael Burnham, Sonequa Martin Green, and the USS Discovery crew. Freed from its 23rd century setting, Star Trek Discovery started to find its footing. With new missions to reunite a broken Federation and investigate the cataclysmic burn, a new setting 900 years in the future, and great new characters like Cleveland Booker, David Ajala, the wait for Star Trek Discovery Season 3 could be overlooked. The wait between Star Trek Prodigy Season 1 and Prodigy Season 2 should have been shorter than the 19 months it wound up being. Fans of all ages who enjoyed the adventures of the young USS Protostar crew anticipated Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, originally scheduled to stream on Paramount Plus late in 2023. Those plans changed when Paramount canceled Star Trek Prodigy and removed Prodigy Season 1 from Paramount Plus. It didn't matter that Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 was completed. The show would have to find a new home to be released. Fortunately, the plan to save Star Trek Prodigy worked when Netflix picked up Star Trek Prodigy. Netflix added Star Trek Prodigy Season 1 to their streaming catalog on Christmas Day 2023. All 20 episodes of Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 dropped simultaneously on Netflix on July 1, 2024, about a year and a half after it was initially expected. The Star Trek franchise, spanning over half a century, has delivered groundbreaking sci-fi moments that have captivated generations of fans. But alongside its many triumphs, Star Trek has also been notorious for keeping fans in suspense, with agonizingly long gaps between major reveals, character arcs, or new series. From unexplained mysteries to extended production delays, here are 10 of the longest waits that Star Trek has forced its fans to endure. 1. The Return of Spock, The Search for Spock. One of the most iconic characters in Star Trek history, Spock's death at the end of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, 1982, devastated fans. His heroic sacrifice to save the Enterprise was a momentous emotional beat, and while the film offered a glimmer of hope for Spock's return, it left fans dangling. For 2 long years, audiences speculated whether or not Spock would return, until Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, 1984, provided the much-anticipated resolution. The wait was over, and Leonard Nimoy's beloved Vulcan was brought back from the dead, solidifying his place in Star Trek lore. 2. The series finale of Star Trek Enterprise. Star Trek Enterprise was the last major Star Trek series before the franchise entered a period of dormancy. Its cancellation in 2005 left many unresolved threads, particularly about the formation of the Federation. Fans clamored for years for some kind of continuation, whether in movie or TV form, but their hopes went unfulfilled. It wasn't until the release of Star Trek Discovery in 2017, 12 years later, that we saw a new serialized Trek show. Enterprise's finale also left a sour taste in fans' mouths, but they had to endure years before the franchise found new life on the small screen. 3. The wait between Star Trek Nemesis and Star Trek 2009. After Star Trek Nemesis 2002 performed poorly at the box office and received mixed reviews, it seemed like the Trek film franchise was dead. For 7 years, there was no sign of another Star Trek movie, leaving fans uncertain about the future of the series. When J.J. Abrams rebooted the franchise in 2009 with the release of Star Trek, the wait was finally over. The reboot brought back classic characters like Kirk and Spock in a new timeline, reinvigorating the franchise for a new generation. 4. The evolution of the Klingons. One of the most intriguing mysteries in Star Trek history was the evolution of the Klingons. Fans first saw the Klingons as they appeared in Star Trek, the original series, 1966 to 1969, humanoid with smooth foreheads. But by the time Star Trek, the motion picture 1979, came out, the Klingons had radically changed, with ridged foreheads and a more alien appearance. For years, this drastic transformation was never explained, leaving fans in suspense. It wasn't until Star Trek Enterprise's fourth season, 2004 to 2005, that the mystery was finally solved. The explanation, an engineered virus that altered their physiology, finally gave closure to fans who had waited over 25 years for an answer. 5. The mystery of Sybek. Introduced in Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, 1989, Sybek was revealed as Spock's half-brother, an unexpected addition to the canon that raised more questions than answers. His existence and sudden disappearance from the narrative left fans puzzled. Though Sybek wasn't directly addressed in subsequent films or series, the wait for a deeper exploration of Spock's family history persisted. It wasn't until Star Trek Discovery Season 2, 2019, which delved into Spock's childhood and family dynamics, that fans received a more thorough exploration of his background. While Sybek himself wasn't featured, the return to Spock's past gave fans something they had waited decades for. 6. Picard's return to the screen. After Star Trek Nemesis, fans were left wondering if they would ever see Patrick Stewart reprise his role as Captain Jean-Luc Picard. The character had become a beloved icon, and his absence from the Star Trek universe was deeply felt. Finally, after 18 years, Star Trek Picard 2020 brought Stewart back to the role. The series delved into Picard's later years, offering a reflection on his legacy and personal struggles. The nearly 2-decade wait was worth it for fans eager to see one of the most revered captains back in action. 7. The wait for Star Trek Deep Space Nine's conclusion. One of the most critically acclaimed series in the Star Trek franchise, Deep Space Nine ended in 1999 with a thrilling finale, What You Leave Behind. However, it left many questions unresolved, particularly regarding the fate of Captain Benjamin Sisko, who joined the Prophets in the Celestial Temple. Fans were left wondering when or if Sisko would ever return. While no new Deep Space Nine series or movie has yet materialized, fans continue to speculate, still holding out hope for a continuation 25 years later. 8. The mystery of Star Trek's Kelvin timeline. J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 2009 introduced the Kelvin timeline, a parallel universe created by the temporal incursion of the Romulan Nero. While the new timeline reinvigorated the franchise, it also raised countless questions about how events would unfold in this new reality.